Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Turn the Tassel Show. My name is Stephen Ampersand, and I'm your host. And as always, we're here to help you and the people you love get to and through college, early or on time, with minimum to no debt. And today's topic, the 4 ways to get out of student loan debt. 4 ways to get out of student loan debt. We did a reaction video yesterday to an NBC video that was done to talk about the student loan debt crisis in America. And we highlighted several things, but the most important thing is that this country right now is holding $1.73 trillion with a T dollars in student loan debt. And contrary to popular belief, these aren't obligated, if you will, to private banks. By and large, 95% of the loans that students take to make up that 1.7 trillion total are owed directly to our federal government. And that's through the direct lending program. Translation: the government has a really nice thing going for itself with this big education thing. And so because this is effectively another balloon, it's another bubble that's getting ready to pop. And again, for those who don't remember, or even for those who do, back in 2007, we as a nation experienced a housing market crash. There was a bubble. And it began because they were heavy into what was called at that time subprime lending, which essentially was aimed, again, well-intended. It was aimed to help people that didn't have the best credit and necessarily even the means to pay on a consistent basis, an opportunity to buy a home so that they could potentially build generational wealth by getting into a home, etc. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the industry and et cetera, many people got into homes that they couldn't afford. And so eventually it all came crashing down and it completely depressed the economy. It was known at that time as the Great Recession. And that was a kinder, gentler way of saying the Great Depression 2.0, similar to what happened in the 1920s. So as we sit at $1.73 trillion of student loan debt, we have to recognize that this too is a bubble and it's going to pop. And so the question becomes, as an individual, perhaps you're an adult learner, or check that. Perhaps you are someone who's gone to college and graduated and you are carrying student loan debt. Maybe you're a parent who has a son or daughter or other getting ready to go to college and you're still paying off loans that you took when you went to college. Whatever your circumstances are, if you are a part of the cohort of individuals that owe the government $1.73 trillion in student loan debt, the unfortunate reality is that there isn't a well-published way to get out from under that obligation. The reason why they can guarantee these funds to the institutions so that they can expect to get paid when you sign up is because, unlike other loan and other financial instruments, you cannot bankrupt your way out of your college loans. The government won't let you off the hook. You could even file for bankruptcy and try to put it in, and it wouldn't work. They wouldn't let you charge it off. So how then does one get out from under the loans? We're going to talk about that today. So I'm going to start with the least favorable, and I'm going to end with the best option, but I'm going to disclaim all of it up front and say none of these options are good. None of them. Um, None of these options are, well, one is, but three of them really are not desirable. So I'll tell you that the very first way, and easily the least favorable way to get out from under your student loans is death. When you die, whatever balance you owe on your student loans gets charged off. They can't collect on a deceased person. And because the loans belong to you and not your parents per se, because they might have their own loans, or your spouse, or even your children, they can't go after them for that money. So, upon your death, with a valid death certificate, they will clear out and charge off your student loan debt. So, that's not ideal. It's not ideal. Try that again. It's not ideal. No bueno. That's not the way you want to get out from under your student loans. The third way, as far as, least favorable being death, second to least favorable would be disability. If you become permanently disabled and you go through the proper channels to document that, and you can provide documentation that you've been declared permanently disabled, they will forgive your student loan debt. Now, again, this is not the most favorable because you have to be disabled. And so you don't want to strive for that. But I do want to put that out there because if anyone is disabled and carrying significant student loan debt, you need to know that you can provide documentation of your disability status, and they will forgive your student loans. And unlike the loan forgiveness program that they talk about on an income-based repayment plan through federal student aid, this won't come back to you with a 1099-G. They won't, gift you what you owe as unearned income, and then require you to pay taxes on it. Your disability status will cause them to simply charge it off. And so you would truly be free and clear in that event. Now here's the caveat. You cannot, after having had your loans charged off for disability status, then turn around and re-enroll in school and start taking out loans again. Because if you do that, then all the loans that you take on after that, you will be obligated for, and there's no out. And in some cases, if it's egregious, they'll even put back on what you previously owed. So don't play any games. If you're disabled, you're disabled. All right, so that's the third best way. The second best way is to refinance your student loan debt once you've finished. And again, that's important. You need to finish school and get through the credential, or at least be at a place where you've determined that school isn't for you and you're never, ever, ever, ever going back and borrowing any money for it. Once you've reached that stage, that's the time to contact places like SoFi and other college debt refinancers who will, in many respects, consolidate. If you have multiple different loans from different servicers, they'll consolidate it all down to one loan. And then you'll have one payment to make. Okay. Now, that doesn't get you out from under the loans. What that does is it gets you out from under federal student aid. which is important because you cannot bankrupt your way out of federal student aid, but you can bankrupt your way out of private, I'll say public sector financial institutions. Now, I'm not promoting that per se, and I'm not advocating that. I'm just giving you information that you need to know. Because some might say, well, it's immoral to borrow all that money and then knowingly go and refinance it and then file for bankruptcy to charge it off. Well, that may be your position. But my position is that saddling young people with 6-figure plus student loan debt before they're old enough to and wise enough to understand the calamity that they're inviting into their lives, I believe that's immoral. And I believe committing them to something like that in a situation where they cannot charge it off or do anything about it is the height of immorality. So we can agree to disagree on that, or we can have a healthy debate about it if that really rubs you the wrong way. But I'm telling you, if you've got 6-figure student loan debt, the best thing you can do is finish the degree and then refinance those monies. In this scenario, it puts you in a position to where you could file for bankruptcy and get out from under your new public sector loan. Now, understand also that when you file for bankruptcy, you're dropping an atom bomb on your credit for 7 years minimum, but usually about 10 years it takes to really recover from a bankruptcy. But let's be honest. If you've got 6-figure, I mean, some of these folks out here with their graduate school got over $300,000 of student loans. I did a show last week where we looked at the USC Master of Social Work program, where literally it costs $115,000 a year for a Master of Social Work program that lets you out with a Master of Social Work, no license, just the Master of Social Work, and the median income is about $52,000 a year. That's a bad deal, right? So if you were talked into a program like that and you didn't do your homework, and now you're left holding the bag on something like that, you're going to pay that for the rest of your life, and you'll never get it paid off just on the interest alone. Yesterday's show, we heard them say in the video on NBC that in the African American community, right, African American students who borrowed loans for college on average are still in repayment 20 years later. Translation, it's not going to go away because your interest rates are high enough to where it's compounding against you, to where your monthly payments aren't even covering the interest. So your principal is almost not moving at all. They owe 95% after 20 years. Okay? So this is a trap and it's immoral. And this is a way out. Okay, so the second best way you can do it is to charge off. First, refinance out of federal student aid into a SoFi or one of these other organizations that do that. And then whatever time you need to, qualify to be able to file for bankruptcy and have it count, you need to wait that length of time. And then I would seek out a good bankruptcy lawyer who can then help you roll in your student loans and any other outstanding consumer debt. Because if you're going to file bankruptcy for your student loans, you may as well get all the other debt wiped out at the same time too. There's no point in doing a bankruptcy and dropping an atom bomb on your credit and then leaving some stuff out there that you still got to pay. You may as well clean it all up at one time. And then you can spend the next 10 years with, ideally, and a good job and a credential, rebuilding your financial situation, which is a lot easier to do if you don't have to give half of it or more back to the federal government because of the student loans you borrowed. And within that 7 years or decade, you'll be in a much better place. So that's the second best way. And then I'm going to say that the best way, and this is, I'm aiming this directly at students who are going to college and are not in it yet. The best way to get out from under student loan debt is to never go into it in the first place. And that's why Turn the Tassel Consulting Group is here. We're here to help you and to guide you with accountability, with coaching, with a plan to support you and to help you to make good decisions about your higher education goals, to help you get the credential that you're after at the most affordable cost in the least amount of time, to keep your overall expenses down so that you don't even have to borrow loans. And we can show you how to do that. I want to encourage you, go onto our Facebook page, Turn the Tassel Consulting. Visit our YouTube page, T3CG. Book your free consultation. Send an email to us at turningtassel@gmail.com. Or text or call at 484-574-1866. Let us talk you through a plan and show you how we can help you to save tens of thousands of dollars on your education so that you don't end up in a position where any of these options are necessary for you. Because for those individuals, and I'm included in this number, that have 5-figure student loan debt or higher, these are not desirable options, but the alternative is to be financially hamstrung for the rest of your life. Now, I should say as a caveat, right, that the other thing you can do to get out from under your student loan debt, so 1A with an asterisk, is to pay it off. And in order to do that, you're going to have to scorch the earth in every other area of your life. You're not going to have the car. You're not going to have the house. You're probably going to move back home with your parents, and you're going to need a job, and you're going to need to devote every dime that you're earning of that job, probably for the first 3 to 5 years, to repaying your student loan debt. That's also not ideal. So the most ideal thing you can do is not get into debt at all. I'm Stephen Ampersand. This is the Turn the Tassel Show. We'll see you next time.